When it comes to the most durable genres in gaming, there is a handful that comes to mind that have truly stood the test of time. Role-playing games, stealth games, platformers, and of course, the evergreen first-person shooter. And while FPS games have not been around as long as possibly the other three, it has spawned titanic franchises such as Halo, Gears of War, Call of Duty, Battlefield, to name a few. But like all genres, it owes itself to humble beginnings, most notably Wolfenstein and Doom, with a plethora of excellent titles in the next few years such as Quake and Team Fortress Classic that refined the formula of fast-paced, competitive and innovative gameplay of the genre, while others such as Duke Nukem, Half-Life and GoldenEye encouraged players to look around for more secrets and gave more leeway to an approach to a level. But it is Doom that I want to talk about, that I truly believe has taken the furthest strides in defining what a first person shooter is all about. The reason being, while Wolfenstein was technically first, it originally was a top down stealth game called Castle Wolfenstein and Beyond Castle Wolfenstein in the 80s. And while its first two games in the 90s may have been more revolved around the action, we saw its stealth elements permeate its gameplay again as the series continued. Which is not a bad thing, let me be clear, but when you look at Doom, there is not an ounce of stealth in that game, nor anything else that seems extra, like a lot of games have today. It's just you, your super shotgun, and a horde of demons. It is perfection. In 1993, ID Software was on a bit of a roll. Fresh off the successes of Commander Keen, which was a side-scroller where you saved the Earth from aliens, coincidentally published by the same people that made Duke Nukem, and Wolfenstein, a campy first-person shooter set in the Nazi-occupied Europe, it looks like they wanted to try and combine the two concepts, but with a darker tone. Using a new 3D game engine, a new lead designer, and lots of intensity and passion, they set off to work and started storyboarding and building a cohesive narrative for their new IP. And then they scrapped all of that. See, the leads at ID were convinced that what they were making had to not resemble their Wolfenstein games closely, as they felt this would hurt sales. So, the decision was made to get rid of all the planned story to make the game as fast as possible and design environments that were more abstract and otherworldly. It was also gaining a lot of media attention because of the successes of Wolfenstein a year prior, and when the time came to release their game, it was so anticipated that the university server it was uploaded on crashed because of the sheer volume of players online. Now, I don't need to tell you about the success story of Doom since it is very well documented, but I will give you this short summary. It made the same revenue that Wolfenstein 3D did in 1 month in a single day. The secrets really lied in the simple things. It was a well-coded game, with great level designs that were easy to navigate, the variety of the demons were challenging, and the weapons felt great to handle and fire, and finally, it was fast-paced. Like, really fast-paced. Doom's presence pretty much propelled speedrunning in gaming to new heights that were never seen or matched. Sure, the concept of speedrunning has existed before the decade, but with the internet growing into a more formidable beast and being able to share more with people online, Doom really became a place of either laying it down in their multiplayer death matches or showing off to your friends how fast you could defeat the Spider Mastermind. The other great thing about Doom was the amazing ability to mod the game and create your own levels and files, also owing to its well-codedness. This was something John Carmack was keen on retaining from Wolfenstein that had already seen the community eagerly making modifications to their IP. And with Doom being open source and coded in C, it was an invitation for creative minds to upload thousands of free, fun Doom levels. This also to an extent was a huge plus for Doom's portability. Sit down, kids, because before we got the "can it run Crisis" meme for the specs of your PC, there was the granddaddy of it being able to run Doom on the most absurd technology imaginable. Originally only created for DOS boxes, there was a time where the developers were even hesitant to port Doom over to Linux, but enthusiasts of the game persuaded them. Now we have seen Doom being played on calculators and even pregnancy tests. With Doom's success, Doom 2 followed, arguably the greatest Doom game depending on your perspective, and then the equally successful ports such as Doom 64, other Doom games such as Final Doom, and countless WAD files. It was the FPS king of the 90s. ID Software were also firmly cushioned in their throne, as in 1996 they would release Quake, another super influential FPS that took competitive gaming to its zenith. At this point, ID Software was still riding high from the phenomenon that was its Doom series, with its successes also oozing through into Quake, where Quake 3 Arena had just been released, one of the best ones in its own series as well. Carmack had wanted to remake Doom for a while, with the innovative technology of the 2000s, the successes that the game had in the decade prior, even getting a movie, with mixed results, and with the ability to introduce the franchise to a new generation of gamers being the driving forces to his decision. The other leads at ID Software were hesitant, feeling that their developers were going to the same drinking well too often when it came to their IPs. A valid concern, given that a lot of the late Doom releases in the 90s were just a rehash of a few maps and refining a formula. The leads would be persuaded interestingly by another use case. Return to Castle Wolfenstein, released in 2001, and would signify a reboot for its franchise, returning to its roots of assassination, sabotage, and stealth, with the addition of a multiplayer mode. This was well received by fans and critics alike, garnering good revenue and reviews. And with that, Doom 3 went into development and would release in 2004, with a few interesting additions. It was more story-centered than its previous titles, with friendly NPCs providing both objectives and information about what hell broke loose in the UAC compound. There were also a lot of horror elements added to the game, such as the darkness, and a flashlight mechanic to create a larger, more fearful threat to players, also aided by the technology of the ID Tech 4 engine that could cast much better lighting and shadows. Did I like these additions? Did they make sense? Well, they do offer a little more variety than your average Doom, and they were executed well, but I don't necessarily think it works logic-wise in a Doom setting. I just can't see Doom Guy wandering around in the dark being jump-scared by demons. He needs to be ripping their skulls out with a backdrop of fire and brimstone. That doesn't mean Doom 3 was a bad Doom. Surely not, there's no bad Doom really out there. It's just a little bit weaker compared to his very strong predecessors and the amazing standards they set. But it did serve as a cool precursor to the Dead Space franchise, and it did have some neat multiplayer, ultimately giving ID Software more fuel to make more Doom games. Sure enough, in 2007, an announcement was made for Doom 4, with the idea it would harken back to the 90s games instead of the horror vision of its previous incarnation. And since they had so much success before, you'd figure their development and the release for the next one would go all smoothly in warm arms of another generation of gamers, right? Think again. The time had ticked on since that announcement at QuakeCon in 2007, and fans were aching for some updates. ZeniMax, the parent of the Bethesda software, had acquired ID Software in 2009 and dedicated more manpower to them, something that ideally should have helped them with the development of Rage and Doom 4. QuakeCon 2011 had a roll around, and Carmack had now been able to say concretely that the new Doom would be a reboot, but nothing more. Then Carmack left in 2013 to pursue his work in the Oculus VR, and things took a turn for the worse. Kotaku, a reputable gaming publisher back then, had released an in-depth, scathing report on what was going on with Doom 4. I won't go into the meaty details, but things were looking grim. Doom Guy had finally encountered a hell that would give him a run for his money. Development hell. And with the prolonged time since Doom 4, a lot of strong competition had arisen. Halo had found its stride after starting as Combat Evolved in 2001. Call of Duty and Battlefield were titans, with gamers rushing to buy the new copy of any of their games at a moment's notice, something like Call of Duty even becoming a juggernaut releasing annually. Would the current generation of gamers even care for a new Doom? Would it even succeed in modern society? Had Doom Guy finally met his match? Think again. It was the most beautiful love letter to where it all began in 1993. a move away from storied elements and narratives and back to brutal action. Glorious glory kills, melee combat, and beefy weapons. Exquisite level design, and a fantastic snap map feature to complement the modding community of all those years ago still going strong. And the score. There are few games with a more profound and defined soundtrack as Doom itself, and a sex icon that is Mick Gordon. There are no words to describe it, but when you hear it, you know. Despite the likes of Black Ops 3 and Battlefield 1 being released in a close window, Doom managed to do the unthinkable and attract a new generation of gamers and veterans to reclaim its shooter throne, even going as far as to win Game of the Year in 2016 by multiple other reviewing and publishing sites. This would be further strengthened by the release of Doom Eternal a few years later. A game that, while at times does feel bloated and tries to focus more on the story again and add some platforming elements, it still delivered a great and chaotic experience. It's a franchise that has truly stood the test of time as it watched the genre it built change around it. And if you are not still convinced by Doom's evergreenness, have a look at a map recently released called MyHouse.1 as proof to how the modders and community of this game are breathing life into it and nurturing it for years to come. There have been so many shooters through the years from all sorts of developers and with all sorts of ideas. Sometimes it feels like the genre truly has nothing new to offer when you see the slew of new titles every year. But then you remember that there is one franchise that truly defines what this is all about. That you don't need to rewrite the book if the book reads perfectly. You remember that the franchise of Doom is eternal. But yeah, that is my thoughts on Doom. I think we can all commonly or universally agree of its presence and everything around it. There might be other people there who don't really have such a strong opinion on Doom, but there is no denying the significance it has in our culture of shooters and in our culture of gaming and stuff. It took so many massive strides. I can't really overstated here how important it was. But anyways, if you guys haven't tried out a lot of the Dooms, old, new, whatever, give it a go. Honestly, you're going to rethink what a shooter should be, and it's just an enjoyable experience. But again, thank you guys for watching this video. I thought I'd pour my passion into this one and all that because it really is a passion topic for me. But again, thank you all for giving this video a watch, a listen, or whatever you did. And yeah, if there are any other games or stories you'd like me to look into, you are more than welcome to let me know and feel free. But other than that, I hope you guys have a lovely day. I hope you can see each other soon. And yeah, stay safe, everyone.